All right, everybody. I've got Nick here on the phone. Say hi, Nick.
Hi, how's it going?
So fantastic. So, the reason I'm doing this interview slash support call with Nick is over the weekend I spent some time praying for my students and thinking how can I help them, and I said, I thought we'll just help them. So I started reaching out, started texting a bunch of and messaging a bunch of my students, and Nick messaged me. Is it okay if I read that message you sent me?
Yeah, sure.
So I was asking him some questions about. He's like, now he's thinking like, oh crap, what did I message, right? So started thinking or started asking him some questions about his business, and he said, "Thanks for reaching out. I'm doing all right. I'm not getting a bunch of responses from direct mail, but here and there I have a couple people that might consider selling. Haven't encountered anyone that's actually distressed though." So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then something else that he said that kind of concerned me was, um, um, I said, "How many deals have you done?" He said, "Zero. Kind of struggling mentally." And that right there, I was like, "All right, we got to get on the phone. We gotta help Nick realize that you don't need to be in a down place. I want to get you in a positive state so
All
you
right.
can get massive success." So I'm here to help you, my friend. And before we dive into the concerns and questions and gold nuggets, those that are listening, make sure you got a pen and a paper so you can make some notes so you guys can have some success as well. And then, as always, if you're struggling to consistently find deeply discounted properties, I know it can be discouraging and frustrating, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's why I share my Driving for Dollars marketing system, how we find all of our off-market discounted properties. I share that through a live webinar. You can go to dfdmastery.com. It'll be in the show notes as well. You can go in and join me live, and I go into depth on Driving for Dollars and how we find our off-market properties. So let's dive into this, Nick. So you told me you are sending or you're adding about 250 properties to your Driving for Dollars list every week. How long have you been doing
Yeah.
that?
That's been going on probably since the end of March. That's what I've been trying to shoot for.
The end of March. Okay. So what is it now? I don't even know. Mid-June?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you've had, so do you have, so in your course, you have your KPI sheet, right? Everything you're supposed to be
Yeah.
tracking. Do you have that?
I do.
Let me
Yeah.
put you on the spot. Oh, look at you,
So
Nick.
I
You're
can
the
pull that
man.
up.
You are the man. Normally, I ask that to my students, and they're like, "Oh, well." So that's awesome. Have you been tracking that every single week and then updating it every month and every?
Yeah, I've been doing that since I had to go back and change some stuff, but let me just add some of these sheets in.
I'm kind of putting Nick on the spot here, but I'm proud of you for being as organized as you are. So make my job much easier.
I'll get the monthly
So
by.
so you're in New York,
I'm actually in Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston. That's
Yeah.
right. I did know that.
Okay.
How many cash buyers do you have on your list?
I've got about 300.
Okay, so you got a great cash buyers list. So, how many have you gone through the course and identified the areas you're driving in the correct areas, right?
I have, yeah. I went through a couple of. It seems like there's a couple of hot zip codes around. There's a highway that runs around Boston, and generally those towns along that highway seem to be. They have the most cash buyers. I did that using your method with what is that, list source, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I was able to determine that. Do you want to look at my KPI sheets that I have set up here?
Yeah. So let's,
Or do you want me to
if you
just
want
kind
to,
of run through them?
you can share it on the screen. You can do a
Okay.
screen share if you want, if you're comfortable with sharing your numbers that way.
It actually says I host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hmm. Advanced sharing options, participants. Okay, try that.
All right. There we go. Okay, so
Get
this is how I've
you.
been doing it.
That's awesome. Have you got a total for me, or have you just got week by week?
I have week by week and then a monthly thing as well.
Okay, cool. Look at you, dude, Nick. I'm going to start
Keeping
having
it
you
up.
talk to my students about how important this is. We can just deep dive these numbers and diagnose the problem. Freaking love it. All right. So, looks like you are, let's see. So, you got the DFD list and
I have another list too. I'm also working with somebody in my area. She's an experienced real estate investor, and we're both kind of trying to do this wholesaling thing. It's not exactly like a business partnership type of thing, just kind of like we're both trying to accomplish the same goal. So we're linking up together. So that's
cool.
where that comes from. She kind of
Okay.
uses more of she does like I think it's called like reverse prospecting. She's got like Facebook ads and pay per click, I believe, set up.
Mm,
So that's where some leads come from as well. I also track those just for the sake of, this already exists, so might as well.
okay. Let's go to the April.
Sure.
God, you even got the tabs and the weekly. I mean, these are looking like my KPIs, man. This is awesome. So it looks like you're cold calling as well as sending postcards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was trying to dabble in the texting, but I couldn't figure out a something that worked in my area
Okay,
that was
so
most cost effective.
you're getting about a 4% response rate on your postcards, or 1% response rate on your postcards, which is normal.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Um, it seems like a few, but it's yeah. But you've only sent 493 postcards.
Well, that was in
Um,
April.
what about May?
So in May, well, yeah, I guess I'm kind of been hovering around, trying to do it every other week, trying to mail out every other week, just because it was like, this is with the previous mail company that you had, and it was like an extra $30 for just to mail it. So that was kind of outside of my budget. So I was doing every other week. And then
Okay.
on top of that, I saw something in our Facebook group that was like a super list type of thing. So I was doing that as well. So you can kind of see it's about like 50% of the leads get a postcard from me. But I don't really know if that is, if
Yeah,
that
so
works or
so let's talk about those four responses. So you got four total responses and one lead in May.
in May. Yeah.
So tell me about that response, or the responses. What are you counting as response? Like people that say yes, I do want to sell, or is that just like people that say pound sand? What are you tracking as a response?
The responses are people that are interested in selling. That comes in just generally as a text message or a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I like when I reach back out to them, they generally just want
Okay.
retail.
Right. Okay. So here we go. You've actually getting more responses. So postcards, anything over a 1% is pretty good. So
All right.
what I count as a response to anyone that calls the postcard, if they say pound sand, if they say they want to sell, if they say they don't want to sell and remove me from the list, I count it as a response, right?
Okay.
So anyone that calls that postcard gets a response. A lead is anyone that says they want to sell,
Okay.
right? And then an appointment is anyone that then wants to go, that's worth going out and meeting with. And I'm seeing so you're essentially gotten 8 leads off of 800 postcards that have gone out. That means you're getting a 1% lead ratio, which is incredible.
Okay.
I know Boston has a little bit smaller price point for a wholesale deal. Your average should be about 7,000 to 8,000 in that market. So with that being said, you should have
What does
a
that mean?
pretty so your average wholesale fee should be about $7,000 in
Okay.
your
Gotcha.
market, because your average purchase price of a house is much lower, right?
In Boston, real estate prices are pretty high.
So the markets you're marketing in, what's your your middle to lower income housing, what's that average price? Because I might be off then.
I'd say it's probably from the houses that I've looked at, as far as just people reaching out, it's probably from like 3 to 6. If it's a multifamily, it's generally like 700 plus.
Way higher than I thought it was then. So yeah, I'm way off. It should be about 1% of that. So you're getting a very high response rate then. Have you talked to any of your cash buyers about the areas you're working?
I have reached out to a handful of them, probably like about 50, to try to get an area, but they all just mostly tell me greater Boston, anything along the Highway 95, which is that highway I was talking about earlier.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that's great. If your systems for finding the exact amount of cash deals and your cash buyers are saying, "Hey, this is the area," you're dialed in with the area. So I'm just trying to diagnose the problem. So you're producing leads, and you've said that some of these leads you haven't gone on appointments because they're wanting retail. Can you walk me through
Right.
some of those conversations? How have those gone?
Well, generally I try to qualify the price, right? That's kind of what we talk about. So I just try to get an idea of, the condition of the house, if it's, if it needs any work or anything like that. If they have any specific number in mind, which if they don't, then what I typically do is I'll uh, I'll try to, get the best idea of the condition of the property as I possibly can. Then I'll tell them I'll call them back tomorrow or sometime later that week. And I'll like, in the meantime, I'll like pull comps. That way I can get an idea of what new houses are selling for in that area. And then I'll call them back and give them an estimate and see if that's, they'd be anywhere, if they have any idea, if that's kind of in their ballpark or whatever.
Okay, found the problem. Um, Nick, it's not about the price.
Okay.
It's not. It's not. So, like, I'll go on appointments. I don't even know what the price they want. Sometimes they'll tell me like $100,000 over what I need it for, but I'll still go on the appointment. Price is irrelevant. What's relevant is the situation. Why are you selling? When do you want it sold by? Right.
Okay.
So I have the motivated seller script uploaded into the course, or it should be uploaded by now. I know I just had that created, for you guys. So the first thing that you do is you talk to them, right? Hey, how's it going? Yeah, great. You got my postcard. Fantastic. Well, thanks for calling me. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. Well, let's talk about the property if that's okay. And then you talk about the property. You figure out, condition of the house. How long have you had it? You know, one thing that you'll learn is they'll start saying things like, oh, it's a rental, or, try and find out if it's their primary residence, a rental, it's an inherited property, figure out about the property, right? And then once you kind of get an idea about the property, you go, well, it sounds like it's pretty great property. You've fixed it up and lived in it. Why would you even consider selling it? Right? Why? Imagine that the seller is either your sister or your brother, right? Well, it sounds like a great
Okay.
property. Why don't you just keep it? Well, why don't you keep it as a rental? Well, it sounds like it needs a bunch of work, but it might be, worth a little bit more money if you fix it up and sell it. Do you want to fix it up and sell it, or do you want to just sell it as is? Right? Figure out what they're trying to do. Well, I don't want to fix it up and sell it. I just kind of want to sell it as is. I don't really have the money to fix it up. I don't really have the time. I'm moving because of work. Like, figure out what's going on in their lives, right?
Okay.
Because what you're trying to figure out is if you come in and buy the property as it is, right, at a discount, is that going to be convenient for their life situation? But you won't know that if you don't know the situation, if you don't know the why, right? So deep dive the why and let the number, the offer and the number be irrelevant.
Okay.
The number totally is irrelevant if there's motivation, right? Once you evaluate that yes, they need an investor for what they're trying to accomplish, set the appointment, go on the appointment. So once you have the appointment set, then I want you to go to my free course on negotiations, right? That you have access to because you're a student. in there, the first section goes through how to evaluate the property, right? What it would be worth fixed up, what you're going to need to be at to be able to pick it up and to be able to wholesale, what your break even number is, and you'll have a ballpark of where you need to be. You might be completely off. It might take you some time to really learn your market and know how to evaluate a property, and that's okay, right? This is a learning process. But you can't really learn these next steps until you're starting to get leads. So I want you to be happy and confident that you are producing leads, and like you may have even thrown money away, but have confidence in knowing that like the process is working. You're producing leads, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, I had no idea that 1% was good.
yeah, dude, you're great. Like
I was getting a
like,
lot. I was getting like 7% for the week when I was cold calling. So that was
dude, you're doing just fine, dude. You're doing
cool.
amazing. Like that's how many leads I'm producing, and I'm getting like over 1 million a year. Like seriously. It's great. Don't be stressing. So yeah, I think we had like 9 leads last week. So for a month, you're a quarter of what we are, but we're adding 2,000 properties a week. So your numbers are very much in line with mine.
Okay.
Right. Plus your price point's much higher. So your average deal size will be much higher too. So keep that in mind. So like you have something going. So I'm liking your numbers. Your numbers aren't off. I honestly think it's your negotiations and you're converting.
Okay.
So once you have that appointment set, go to that course, and it talks about how to evaluate your numbers and where you need to be going in. Once you show up to that appointment, I want you to spend a bare minimum of 30 minutes talking to the sellers, not about the house. Definitely do not talk numbers, not for 30 minutes. You are getting to know the people. You were talking to them about the house. Oh, this is awesome. Your grandfather built the house. Like, oh man, you probably have so many memories, blah, blah, blah. Like, get to know them. If you have things in common, obviously don't try and manipulate them or act like you're excited about golf when you hate golf, right? Like, be genuine and genuinely care about these people and get to know them. And the reason you do that is, first of all, because that's what decent human beings do, right? They communicate and befriend each other. But imagine that you're competing between, you as the buyer and the seller's brother, right? You both make the same offer on the house. The brother's always going to get the deal because there's a relationship. So if you're competing against another investor and that other investor walks in the door and just says, oh yeah, my offer is this, man, this place is a dump, right? And then walks out, and you make the exact same offer, yet you're buddies with him, who's going to get the deal?
Right.
You're going to get the deal, right? People want to do business with people that they like and they trust. So build that rapport, build that relationship, talk to them. And you'll get more and more comfortable with this, right? Once you've gone through that process, then I want you to follow the negotiation strategies that I give in that bonus, right? Which is the third part of getting the purchase contracts, right? Originally, I named that negotiation course the three parts of getting a purchase contract, right? Evaluating the deal, building rapport, and then presenting the offer and negotiating that offer. So you never just give a number, right? Over the phone, you're not building a relationship, and you're giving them a number over the phone, and guess what they do? They take that number, go, oh, okay, well, this investor is going to offer this much. Let's see what these other postcards and these other investors have to say, right? You're a springboard into negotiating with someone else. They're never going to call you back. They got your number. They're not even going to take your call because they have your number. They have the control once they have your number. I never give a number until they're ready to sign. I give them a range. I say, once I do my evaluations, I go, well, I'd love to see the house. I can get a better idea. I go meet with them, build that relationship, build that rapport. Like, well, just a quick walkthrough. I'm probably going to be in this range to this range. How far off are we? Right? How far off? Like, you're going to yell at me over those numbers, right? And they're like, probably want more than that, or no, I need more than that, and that's fine, right? And be like, well, that's kind of where I'm going to need to be. I'll follow up with you in a week or two, right? And maybe reality will set in. They'll want to work with you within that price range. But even if they go then check with other investors, they don't have your exact number. So they're still willing to talk to you. They still want to button you down for like an exact number. So you never give a range until they're ready to get rid of that house. They're ready to sign, right? But if they go, oh yeah, we could probably work within that range. It's like, well, to be frank, I'd really like to be the bottom end of that range. I mean, how far down would you go, right? And you're going to go back and forth, and they're going to want to be at the top range, and you're going to want to be at the bottom range, and you're going to try and work them down as far as you can. And then you're going to have to come up and meet them at some point, right? Let's say you say 200,000 to 250,000. Give a big range, right? 250,000 where you'd make money, and 200,000 where you'd make a lot of money. And then you go back and forth, and regardless of where you settle within that range, you're making money, right?
Okay.
And then once they're like, well, dude, I promise you, this is the lowest I would go. I would meet you in the middle, right? And you're going to make 30,000 or something, right? At that number. And you go, man, that's probably more than I want to spend. Oh man, I don't know. Right. And you're thinking, I'm going to make 30 grand. I'm going to make 30 grand, but you can't. They need to feel like they won the negotiations. Yeah. It's not necessarily that they won the negotiations. They need to feel like they did. Right. And you go, well, so are you saying that if I go get the papers, you would sign at that number right now? And they're like, yeah. Go get the papers. Go get the papers. I would sign at that amount. Right. That's what you're trying to do. And so then you go, oh man, okay, I'll go get the papers. And then they're like, well, sign in the papers, and you get the contract, right? Because they feel like they talked you into the price.
Yeah.
That's why you give a range and you go back and forth within your range. Because if you settle anywhere in that range, you make money. You don't ever give a hard number, because then it's just a springboard to other investors, right? Can't tell you how many deals I've done where I've signed contracts for way less than papers they have in their hands.
Wow.
Text offers as low as $20,000 less than contracts they have. Over and over and over. We do that in our business, is we build a relationship, we give them a range, and we go back and forth, and they say, well, I've got this offer. And it's like, yeah, but it's not a guarantee, right? It's just someone's offer. Like, I can make my earnest money non-refundable. I promise that I'll follow through. Or you get $2,000 and then you can go try and go with them, and then they might cancel and you can go with someone else. But are you 100% confident in that person? And that person didn't build rapport. So guess what? They don't have confidence in that person, but they're going to like you. They're going to trust you. They're going to go back and forth, and they're going to feel like they did really good job getting you to your highest number, right? Like there's definitely a little dance that goes along with getting them to sign that agreement. But the thing is, you haven't gone on a single appointment, and you've produced 8 leads in those 2 months. I want you to start going on appointments, and even if you don't think it'll be a deal, I want you to build relationships and give range offers.
Okay.
Because I want you to practice that. So if they're willing to meet with you, meet with them, because I need you to practice this.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Great. Do you feel like there's going to be a major shift in what you've been doing to what you're going to do now from our conversation?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more worth it for me to, even if I don't really know if it's a deal or not, just to go and see what happens. I think that I'm pretty good at talking with people generally. I think it's there's like the lead generation, and then there's going on the appointments, and then there's the middle part where I'm on the phone that I'm not really that great at.
Right. Don't focus on getting the contract over the phone. You're just trying to understand the situation.
Okay.
Right. Don't talk about, like, you can do the preliminary look at numbers and stuff for the appointment, but don't give them any of that information. Right. Just be like, well, I don't understand what's going on. Do you have a price range? Do you have a time frame? Like, just understand where they're coming from, what they're thinking. And it has nothing to do with anything other than understanding where they're at. Then go meet with them, build that relationship. A lot of appointments may be a waste of time. That's fine, but you'll get better and better at evaluating that. Right. Okay. I can't tell you how many students that have done this. They've gone and signed contracts, and they said, I had no clue what I had on my hands. I had one student, I talked to Scott again today. He has a record for the biggest deal. I remember he messaged me, hey, my mom got a purchase contract today. We don't know what it's worth. I called him and we started running the numbers. I was like, dude, that's a 6-figure deal. He didn't know what he had, and he had a 6-figure deal.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to understand that that it's not always going to be very, you're not going to have all the answers in the beginning. I remember my first contract I got, my first wholesale deal, I made $10,000 profit. I was told by experienced people that I would never move it, that I was too high. Like I had no idea what I had. I had no idea. Right. And I found one person that was interested. He paid me $10,000, the only interested buyer, but I had a 1031. I made 10 grand. So it's not always like a guaranteed. It's not always a very simple process, but you know, the biggest thing is building those relationships, getting those purchase contracts, and learning from the experience, right? So you're going to get it, man. Keep your chin up. Like your numbers are looking good. You're following the course very well, that you've got your KPIs like this. This is beautiful. Any of my students that are listening to this, follow Nick's example. Nick's a rock star. Seriously, get your numbers in order, because it makes it so I can help you and evaluate your business so much faster. So that's what I've got for you, Nick. Do you have any more questions before we go?
Yeah, so the new mail house is definitely much cheaper and easier to mail for sure. But I'm kind of curious as far as like my price range or my budget more so. I've always kind of been wondering this question, should I mail all these other leads and not do the cold calling, or just kind of like, I don't know, because it's kind of like one step at a time,
You know, if you have downtime, I think cold calling is actually a pretty good way to go, right? If you have some extra
It's
free.
pretty effective for me as far as getting leads.
Yeah, I can see that, right? 14 leads versus one, and you got a hold of 125 people, right? So it looks good. So let me ask you this question. You're sending 422 postcards, even though you're adding 832. So you're not sending postcards to your entire list. How are you breaking down that criteria? Are you doing like really, really rundown houses and not so rundown? How are you breaking it down?
Generally, I don't have my driver taking photos of the properties. That's how I did it for like from the beginning, but I figured it was faster and more efficient to do it this way. Also, that's kind of what you preach. So
Yep.
basically, when I go into Deal Machine, I pretty much just look for properties that were like either bought a long time ago or built a very long time ago, because homes around Boston are like 100 years old. And that homes that also either have high equity or what is it? I'm trying to think. That's pretty much it, I guess, for now.
Okay. So this is what I say. Okay. So what you need to do is you have your driving for dollars list right now. When you pull that list, it's all in one big bunch. But let's say you want to do, okay, driving for dollars list with low equity, driving for dollars list with high equity. That's now two different lists. You separate them. Once you pull that list, you're going to create, so you see how you have the Maryland list and the driving for dollars list?
Yeah.
Now you're going to have a driving for dollars high equity list and a driving for dollars low equity list.
Okay.
And then you can go, okay, if I send this many postcards to this list, this is the results I get. But if I send postcards to this list, it's so much worse. It's not worth my money, right? But you're making decisions off of your feelings or thoughts or expectations, not necessarily off of proven data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's fine if you have a hunch that one little section of your driving for dollars list is better than others. So right now, what I'm testing is I have the driving for dollars list owner occupied, the driving for dollars list absentee owner, the driving for dollars list corporate owned, right? And I'm testing all three of those separately so I can see where all my money's coming from in comparison to one another. Because I keep having students telling me, oh, well, I don't make deals off of the corporate owned. And it's like, well, how do you know that? Well, I just don't think it's like, well, it's not about what you think, it's what the numbers show. So if you want to test or experiment with that kind of stuff, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, if you're out driving and creating a driving for dollars list, if they're run down and have physical signs of neglect, it's because they're emotionally detached to the property. So they definitely should be getting marketing. So those ones that you're not sending postcards to, either either just start sending postcards to them and leave them in your Driving for Dollars list, or create another campaign with a different tracking phone number, and just like you did with the Maryland list, right?
Okay. Okay, but yeah, I guess I mean I'm mostly basing the decision off of from like a budgeting standpoint because it would be about the same price to mail the difference as it does to as Mojo costs, like plus skip tracing and all that. Um, and that's kind of like the upper limit of my my budget there.
Gotcha.
So I don't really
That
know,
makes sense.
because it's kind of hard to say.
Then how would I have you break this up? What I would do is I would pin less properties per week.
Okay.
Because think about this, you're paying money to acquire properties for your marketing that you're not marketing to.
Well, they're getting phone calls from me, but like if
How many attempts?
I usually do 3 plus a voicemail.
Okay, do this. If you do 3 attempts and a voicemail and you still haven't gotten a hold of them, send a postcard. Those that you have gotten a hold of, so it looks like you got a hold of 125. That's going to cut your down to like 700 that you'll send postcards to. So it's a little more than what you're sending now. You're sending 422. But maybe what you could do is you could go, okay, anything that was purchased 3 years ago and older.
Okay.
So yeah, because I mean, if they've just barely bought it, there's probably no equity. There's probably not a deal there, or any interest in selling. So maybe if you do that criteria, you'll be able to tag the same amount of properties, reach out to everyone, and then sending postcards. Especially if you're dropping a voicemail, because then for sure they're probably getting some kind of touch as well. But yeah, I mean that's probably the way I would approach that.
Okay. All right. Cool.
But let's definitely try and do this. So I'm going to challenge you to have a deal by the end of July.
All right.
I really think that you have potential to have a deal closed and another deal under contract by the end of July from looking at these numbers. Seriously, you follow those negotiation strategies, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to change everything that you perceive on what you're doing. And I plan on interviewing you again here shortly, and we'll be like, hey, remember that one time I interviewed you and it was like, hey, I don't get it. And then all of a sudden you're doing deals. It's going to happen. I see it with my students all the time. So I'm excited for you, man. Reach out to me if you have any more questions. You've always got that Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
And we're here for you. Okay.
Awesome. I just got to get a new driver.
Yeah. Did your driver quit on you?
He just wasn't like, I would tell him to drive a town, and then he'd like drive the town for like part of the time that I wanted him to work for, and then he'd drive like a different town that like he had already driven, and it wasn't like I don't know. He just wasn't kind of like doing what I was kind of like what I would ask him to do essentially. So it wasn't really working out all that well.
Gotcha.
So, but it was okay. It wasn't like bad. It was okay.
Right. Well, have you posted your ad yet? Are you doing Craigslist? Or are you doing through your own network? How are you finding your people?
I found that other person on Craigslist, but that actually happened yesterday. So I'm in the process of doing that still. So, but awesome. I got him on pretty quick last time, so I think it'll be probably by next week before I get another one.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, man. Well, I'm excited for you. Let me know if I can help you in any way, and we'll talk again soon.
I'm sure. For reaching out.
For sure, man. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.